Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in today's podcast. Listen, y'all, I have a special guest, and I know I am not at my regular time, but listen, you can tune in on your way home from work, wherever you may be. You definitely don't want to miss this conversation on this afternoon. And of course, you always know, I always say this, if you would like to be recognized, make sure that you put a comment in the comment box so that I can recognize you and so that individuals know that you're watching on today. So we already have one guest, Sherry Dawson Williams. She is in. Good afternoon, Sherry. Thank you so much for joining in on today. We're excited that you are tuned in. And we're going to just dive right in because y'all, we only got 30 minutes with this phenomenal woman. All right. This phenomenal woman in this great month of May, Attorney Mariah Street. Thank you so much for being with us on today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I am super excited, hoping to share some valuable information. I hope it's good to people, okay?
Yes, I'm sure it is going to be amazing. So, Attorney Mariah, can you just tell us where is your office based out of? Where are you centrally located, and what type of law do you actually practice?
Yes, so good, so good. So my office is based in Raleigh, North Carolina. Of course, we serve clients all over the state of North Carolina as well as the country for some certain services. We are a legacy and estate planning and business law firm. So the major services that we provide are legacy and estate planning, everything that encompasses with that. I'm sure we'll get into some of this in the episode, but your wills, your trust, your powers of attorney, all of that, business succession planning, anything that comes with planning for legacy, right?
Yes.
And then also on the other side, we serve business owners as well. So we'll do review and draft contracts, contract negotiation, entity formation strategy, business strategy, that as well as intellectual property, so trademarks and copyrights, which that's where we can serve anybody in the U.S. for trademark and copyright services. So
Wow.
everything concerning legacy, because all of this is building wealth and leaving an inheritance for your children's children. So it all relates.
Yes, I love that. I love that. So before we kind of dive into some of the specifics that you do within your law firm, let's talk about what garnish your interest into actually pursuing law.
Ooh, such a good question. I think from a very young age, I've always had a desire to just to serve people. I think
Mhm.
I definitely have a servant's heart, and so I knew whatever it is that I was going to be doing, whether it was law related or whatever else, it had to be. I had to be some doing something of service to people, and I've also always had a very much a big passion for being a voice for people who might not have one, being that advocate for people.
Right.
And so I think that's kind of where initially where my interest in the law came from.
Okay.
I'm definitely very passionate about, social issues and social justice and that as well. And so this
Mhm.
is kind of how I'm doing my part in that is, helping us to protect the things that we're building as well as protect our family and,
Right.
all of that. So
Right.
yes, yes.
Yes, good stuff. Good stuff. Brianna is on. She said, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Brianna. Thank you so much for tuning in. Cynthia's on. Hi, Cynthia. Thank you so much for tuning in. She said, awesome already, right?
Yes.
Great information so far. Now, Attorney Mariah, I know when we initially spoke, you mentioned something when I was talking about the importance of estate and legacy planning. You mentioned something to me that was, it just like struck my heart chords. You stated that another reason why you gained interest in this area too is because your mother. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we dive
Yes,
into estate planning?
for sure. Yes. So I got into legacy and estate planning specifically, after, law school and all that, when, based off of my story of my mom. So for those of you who don't know, my mom passed away at a very young age. She was 46 years old. So I'm sure some of you on here might be younger than, maybe a little younger, maybe a little older. That just
Mhm.
goes to show you that life life events, it doesn't show any respect of age, fame,
Right,
status, whatever you got, it doesn't matter. um,
right.
and so she, like most people, didn't have any plan in place. And so, unfortunately, that meant that there was no specific inheritance set aside for me and my brother. I have a younger brother who's 6 years younger than me. I was in college at the time, so I was legally an adult. My brother was in high school at the time when my mom passed. And so I know that that wasn't my mother's intention. I know some of you on here might be parents, or listening in might be parents. I'm sure that's not what you intend for your kids, that after you're gone, your kids are like, why didn't you sit down and do this? And it's causing financial and legal stress on top of grieving a significant loss. So that's why I am super passionate about making sure that y'all understand, and not just understand, because once you have the knowledge and the information, you're then responsible for the information. So what you choose to do with it, that's your responsibility. So if you choose to listen in and you don't do anything about it, then that is on you. That is on you and your family and what you got going on. So it's important. I'm a believer, and I believe in one of our firm pillars is stewardship for this very reason. We believe, and the clients that we serve believe, that we are stewards of what we are not the owners of our family. We are here to manage. God has called us to manage, to be the spouse of whoever we're married, to be the parent of the kids that we have. And that means that we need to take care of what God has entrusted in our hands. And so I want us to be very mindful of that, because it's not being a good steward to just say, okay, well, things will just work out when I die. That's not good leadership. And when you have a family, you are a leader. So you have to treat it like that. So
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that personal story. Joshua's on it. Red X Dawson, he said, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining. And again, for those who are tuned in, make sure that you like and share this podcast. We're streaming live on 3 different platforms tonight: YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Now, Attorney Mariah, people probably have heard the word estate and legacy planning, but let's just take the part estate planning. What does estate planning consist of?
yes, such a good question. So I always say a comprehensive estate plan encompasses of a few things. So one, it is planning for if you are in the hospital, for example, and you can't make decisions for yourself. We call it incapacity planning. So you're in a coma, whatever the case is, ICU, whatever it is, and you just can't make any type of decisions for yourself. Then who is going to take on, act as you to perhaps make medical decisions on your behalf, because they're going to have to communicate with your doctors to see what's going on, to see whether or not to authorize this treatment or that surgery, or move hospitals, or make any type of decisions, authorize medications that you're receiving, that type of thing. Who's going to be that advocate for you, as well as on the legal and financial side. So if you're in the hospital, guess what? Your bills are going to keep coming. They do not care. So who is going to be that person to make sure that your legal and financial life is still in order? Because we're believing that you come out of that situation. You don't want to be, out here with a poor credit score because you didn't pay your mortgage on time. You didn't pay your electricity bill on time. You didn't sign certain contracts, maybe that you were obligated, or whatever the case is, or maybe you've entered into contracts, you had obligations that you need to fulfill. And so this person will act on your behalf, as well as just listing your wishes and think, if you are in an end of life care situation, what are your wishes concerning that? I had an uncle who passed away from COVID, and he was in the hospital for a little stint of time for some days. And, I remember my great aunt saying to me, I wish I would have known what his wishes were. This was after the time the doctors already said, that he was going to pass away. It was just a matter of time at that point. And she didn't know, whether or not how long he wanted he to be on life support. That's a thing that we need to consider. If you're in that situation, how long do you want to be on there before you say, just go ahead and, let me meet the Lord. Okay. So those types of things, as well as, that's part of it. So we don't think a lot of times, and none of what I just said has anything to do with how much you think you do or do not have. Because I know a lot of people saying, well, I don't have much. None of the things that you said ain't got nothing to do with that. So,
that's true. And can I ask a question while you're on that particular subject? Now, is the incapacitation the same as the POAs? Do they work interchangeably, or are they definitely separate? And then I'm going to read a comment that just popped up a few minutes ago.
So awesome. So yes, what I'm talking about is definitely the documents that would help to, state some of that are your powers of attorney. So it's your healthcare power of attorney for the person who's going to make medical decisions, as well as outline some of your what you're authorizing them and not authorizing them to do, as well as
Right.
some of your wishes in there, and also your we might get into some of this as well, but
Mhm.
your advance directives, or AKA or a living will. Those two names are used interchangeably. That is your
Okay.
end of life care wishes. So the things that I
Oh,
was talking about. Do you want artificial hydration, nutrition? If you can't eat and drink, all of that stuff. That is that. And then your durable or financial power of attorney, that is going to be the document that gives your agent the authority to act on your behalf legally and financially, like pay your bills and all the things that we were talking about just then.
so there's different types of power of attorneys. Am I
There
hearing that
are.
correctly?
That is correct.
Wow. Wow. And
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, correct me because I am not the subject matter expert. You are. The power of attorney, it is no longer valid once that person dies, correct? Or is that
Correct.
incorrect?
Yes,
Okay.
it
Okay.
will. It will. Yeah. At that
Okay.
point, then then we'll get in. Then you would get into your the planning that you did in the event of your death. So that's your last will and testament, or a trust, or both, or whatever. And in those
Yes.
documents, you'll name the either for a trust, it'll be a trustee, a successor trustee. If it's a will, you would name a personal representative, we call it here in North Carolina, or an executor. Then that person is who steps in and handles your estate after.
Gotcha. So we want to really dive into during the time. I know we can't get all into it to the trenches about estates and not the states, but the trust and wills. But we're going to
Yeah.
talk about that. Let me read this comment that came up. Cynthia said, I understand that I lost my mother when she was 39 and there was nothing in place. So you're talking right. Right. Teach your children how to manage after you are gone. Absolutely, absolutely, Cynthia, because I truly believe, Attorney Mariah, that is what causes families to split because things are not in order.
Absolutely.
People are fighting over who's going to get mama or daddy's car, who's going to get the house, and who's going to
Mhm.
get the jury, who's going to get the fine china. People don't care about China anymore, but it just depends. But who's going to get the land? That's so
Yeah.
important because with me also, in real estate, you see when people don't have things in order, it is a mess when you're trying to sell property or things of that nature. So we're going to talk about that. Let me read some of these additional
Yes,
comments
please
here.
do.
Brianna said, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it, Brianna?
Yeah.
And she also stated that would definitely alleviate a lot of stress. I totally
It really
agree.
did.
It would definitely alleviate stress
Really would.
if we plan and do things that are in order. Laval is on. He said, hello, hello, Laval. Thank you so much for tuning in on tonight. So let's get back to when you were talking about the will versus the trust.
Yes.
Can you explain what each thing is and what are the differences? Because a lot of people, including myself, need additional knowledge in regards to that. But I'm going to read this comment real quickly, Attorney Mariah, okay?
Yeah, please.
Cynthia said, please put a plan in place and don't be afraid to talk to your children about death and your wishes. Please put a POA. It will last how long it's written. I
Mhm.
have a POA for my sister and dad, and I put in after death and before death. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So let's dive into that. Thank you, Cynthia, for that comment. Let's dive into that, Attorney Mariah, in regards to the difference of between a trust and a will or a trust, whichever one you want to take first.
Perfect. Okay, I get this question a lot, so I'm gonna break it down. It's very simple.
Okay.
So they both do similar things. I do want to say that they both do similar things. So they will distribute everything that you own that is in your name at your death to whoever you want to, distribute it to. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the difference, there are some major differences. One of them is that, so just as a precursor, when
Mm-hmm.
if you pass away, with the will or without a will, your family will have to, if you've dealt with anybody who's died, you know this, you have to go to court and you have to open up their estate. You have to file paperwork with the court, all of that. And this is one of the major differences. So a lot of people think that if you die and you have a will, that your family gets to skirt around that process. You do not. Your family will still have to go to the courthouse in your county and open, do all the things and, potentially hire an attorney depending on how savvy you are and all of that. And, it could get complicated. But, you'll do all of that. And then they will open up your estate to creditors. So they'll allow any creditors, anybody that you have owed money to, they will allow them to make any claims. And if their claims are valid, the court determines that, then they will distribute that money to the creditors. And then what is left over, if there is anything left over, will get distributed according to what you have in your will. And so that's opposite than a trust. So a trust, when you pass away, if it is one thing that is very important when you establish a trust, you have to what we call fund it. So you put we call it like you're putting your assets into the trust. Think of it like a wagon. You're putting your real estate in the wagon. You're putting your life insurance policies in the wagon. All of the things on your name in the wagon. And then so that means that your trust actually owns those assets, or they are the beneficiaries of them. So that means that when you pass away, you actually don't, because you don't own anything in your name, you do get to skirt around going to court and all of that. So your family can bypass that process, completely. And you can just distribute everything that you own in the privacy of, your family attorney or your attorneys, because you're going to need some help, especially if you have a trust. So you'll do that, but you won't have to go through that. So that means it's more of a private process, whereas anything dealing with the government or the court is public record. You can go down to any courthouse and look up anybody's probate records. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an attorney. I'm saying Ladora can do it. Anybody can go down and access anybody's record. That's why when you see celebrities pass away, you know who's getting what and how, because that information is public information. Because a lot of
and when you hear say the word probate, what does probate mean? Because I'm sure a lot of individuals who are watching will watch the replay. They've heard the term probate before, but they don't really know what probate is. Because when you just stated in regards to even going down to the courthouse and looking at the probate records, that's new information for me. I did not know that. So explain to those who are viewing and will watch the replay later on, or even listen to the replay, what is a probate? What does probate mean?
Yes, so it is exactly the process that I was just talking about. Actually,
okay,
that's that process where and it's just you do it through probate court. It's called probate court, but the probate, all of it. This is the same. Is that
gotcha?
You go down to the courthouse, you open up their estate, file the paperwork, blah blah blah. Gotcha. The creditors, they take whatever they're owed, and then what's left over gets distributed according to your will. Or if you die without a will, state law gets to determine who your heirs are.
Right.
So that means that during the probate process, they will, if you didn't have a will, they will determine according to state law who is getting what and how much. Okay, as well as who gets your kids if you have kids and minor children.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So very important to make sure you know what's happening, and you have control. This is one thing that you have control over it, but you got to take steps. You can't.
So basically, what you're saying, Attorney Mariah, is that if people don't plan, then they allow the state to determine where their assets go to.
Yes, everybody listening to this already has a plan in place. Newsflash, even if you think you don't, because and this is exactly why. If you don't have anything in place right now, your estate plan is in the North Carolina statutes, or whatever state you're listening from. Whatever statutes that they put for a state administration, that is your estate plan.
Did
Okay.
y'all hear that? Your plan is already in place if you do not plan. So it is so important to plan. And I flashed some comments up here early, and Roderick, I know you tuned in and I flashed you up here, but let me just recognize you. Thank you so much for tuning in, Roger. And also, I'm getting some comments here as I put up here earlier, some comments made by Brianna and Sherry. Also, Cynthia stated so much information. That's true. In fact, thanks so much. Sherry stated, oh my God, wow. Oh my goodness. I'll be like, don't use God name in vain. So, oh my goodness. Wow. Even I can hear it in my ear right now. Even your children. So yes.
Yeah, a judge will determine. They'll hold court. They'll allow anybody who is interested in obtaining guardianship over your kids, and a judge will make a determination. Okay, so anybody can come forth. It doesn't have to just be your spouse or who you know what I mean?
So it doesn't have to be a family member, Attorney Mariah?
No, anybody who the law, at least in North Carolina, says any interested persons. Okay. Interested persons. So think of anybody in your life that has an interest in your kids or the stuff that and think of if you have, and also, some people might think of that as a cash grab, because, if they're trying to, maybe get custody of your kids, that, they'll think, oh, that might come with some money to take care of them. So, you got to be careful depending on what your family dynamics are and all that. So,
you all, if you're watching, listening to the replay, she is dropping some really good information that many of us, to include myself, did not realize. Oh my goodness. Sherry Dawson Williams said, I need to get me a plan in place. Yes. Everyone who's on here definitely need to make sure that a plan is in place. And that's why I'm like, y'all make sure that you are in this podcast conversation, because she's giving out some really vital information. Sherry said, Mama said there's a difference between a trust and a will. It definitely is. And she just covered that. Red X Dawson stated, wow, right? Oh my goodness. I did not realize that. Now, let's talk about, we talked about the children. I didn't even know that. I'm still like shocked. That's like in my head. I'm like, really? So I legit can go through the newspaper and see such and such died and such left this child behind, and go show up to the court and like, I want to claim custody of this child.
Potentially, yeah. Now, of course, a judge is going
to
of course. Make a determination.
Right.
So it's very unlikely that a judge is going to be like, yeah, let me give this over to screen.
Right.
But, just saying,
family members and stuff, they can argue over the child. Like, for example, if a parent separated and they have a child, and that child was in, either the father custody or the mother custody, if either one of them passes, then that other parental, to include the grandparents, to include the aunties, all of them can try to come and say, well, I want, custody of this child. So that's, wow. Oh my goodness. Cynthia said, please educate yourself on this. I learned this when I started taking care of my loved ones. She is talking right. Isn't she? Red X Dawson stated, that's why when somebody dies, stuff goes crazy after that. With family and friends, it definitely does. And Sherry stated, I have a 1-year-old and my mama and daddy getting my child. Laugh out loud. Honey, you have a husband first. This is my sister. You have a husband first. He gets first ops. And so just let you know that. But I know what you were meaning, sis. I know what you're meaning. If anything ever happened to you or your husband, of course, you have your parents there, and then you have your big little sis here that will assist you as well. So it's so important. So, Attorney Mariah, I want you to be able to continue to answer some questions while we have time.
Yes.
Now, I see with me also doing real estate, how individuals, because there's no will left, there's no trust left as far as their homes or their possessions, specifically homes, because I'm speaking of real estate, then the family members can't come up in agreement on anything. So now the courts are part of that. Can you explain how people within the Black and Brown communities and also other communities, we lose
Oh
estate,
yeah.
real estate, we
Oh
lose home ownership,
yeah.
homes, farms, all this kind of stuff because we do
Mhm.
not properly plan. Can you
Correct.
talk about that?
Oh yeah, definitely. This will be really quick because yeah, when one if you're case in point, you don't have a plan. Okay, people trying to decide who gets Big Mama's house, whoever, whatever.
Right.
So if you as well as other people have a legal interest in it, so obviously probate court, like we talked about before, get to determine who the heirs are. So it could
Right.
be multiple, especially in our Black and Brown communities. We have a lot of, you have siblings and whoever else also has an interest in it.
Hmm.
That means that anybody who has an interest in that real estate has to agree on what is going to happen to that thing. So if y'all cannot agree, it's very likely, obviously that's up to the courts and blah whatever. But
Hmm.
if there's no agreement, a lot of times your real estate's going to be sold, and then the proceeds are going to be divvied up. So that means that yes, you are losing out on the benefits of home ownership and passing real estate down in the family, which is the major way that wealth is built in this country. Okay, if you're not
Absolutely.
making any more land, real estate is super valuable. We've seen the value of homes, at least
Hmm.
up here in North Carolina. That thing is rising.
Oh,
You
yes.
know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
Yes.
if anything, like if we can keep home ownership within families,
Right.
um, then that would be great, especially in ours because we're in minority communities, because then we can build wealth that way. But
Absolutely.
you have to have a plan if you don't want real estate to be sold so that that can happen. Because imagine if you're passing down real
Yes.
estate and you rent it out, and then the just the rent and the income off of those properties or whatever
Hmm.
is being distributed to people in the family, and they can live and eat off of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So put a plan in place, because when you don't put a plan in place and you own real estate, as Attorney Mariah just stated, and I'm going to echo that because this is so important.
Yeah.
What happens is that the state will sell the home and distribute the assets.
Hmm.
So no one now in the home or in the family is able to own
Yeah.
any
Dang it.
of the property. None of the property is gone, is sold.
Hmm.
And like she stated, real estate, you can pass it down from generation to generation to generation as long as you pay those property taxes. I
Correct.
just want to put that in there too.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
so
Period.
that's important.
Yeah.
Joshua said true. Sherry stated, wow, great information. Brianna stated, can we get a part two?
Yes, I would love to. We'll have to
Yes,
do a part two.
yeah, we will. And she
Yeah.
stated, do you recommend any books to read on this?
Ooh. Oh my gosh.
She gonna say schedule consultation with Attorney
I
Mariah Street.
shoot. I mean, I'm trying to think of some good. I don't know if I can recommend any good books.
Right.
I haven't really come across many, which is saying a lot. Maybe I need to write. Maybe that saying means maybe I need to write
Oh,
something on books.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Brianna.
I will say, I do, if you and I know she'll put it on here with my
Yes.
website, but if you go to my website, legacystreetlaw.com, and you go to the resources tab, I have done so many uh, other podcasts, whatever, where I have like really gone into different stuff that we didn't even talk about today. So if you
Yes.
want to go in and listen to a lot of that, it's so helpful and valuable. And I'm not just saying because I did it, but just literally, it's a lot of good information. As well as you can get on my email list by going to my website as well. And I give actual concrete valuable information just by simply being on my email list. Like, you're not, like, I'm not spamming you. I'm literally trying to just give you education and information. So just do that. Yeah, if you have any questions on getting on the list or whatever, just you can send an email at clients@legacystreetlaw.com. But as far as wealth building, I know a lot of people though have mentioned about, there's a book about the Rockefellers, and I can't remember what the title of it's called, like what Rockefellers do or
Hmm.
something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's pretty much about wealth building and
Right.
things like that.
Hmm.
So, but really, any if you're just like listen to any of your favorite personal finance folks in terms of wealth building during life, and then like I said, if you kind of just maybe listen to some of the things that I suggested for estate planning, then you be like good. You know what I'm saying?
Or I'm about to flash this comment up here, Attorney Mariah.
Uh,
Or listen to what Brianna stated.
my time to write a book. Okay, I hear you. I hear you. Okay,
Okay,
I
so
hear.
we all are going to be looking out for this book. And
Okay,
guess
I'll do
what?
it.
Once you write it, you can expect to see me and some of those who are watching at your book launch. So
Yeah.
guess what? You didn't got an entire basically commission from one of my viewers here on tonight telling you it's time to write the book. And I definitely agree. Red X agreed too. He said
Okay,
definitely. So
I'll
you
do
know
it.
what? They're going to be probably reaching out to you, but
Please
they're
do.
also going to be looking out for this book
I will.
because there's probably not even a lot of information out there, and Google will only give you but so much information.
Yeah, and some of it's not complete,
That's
and
what I
some of
was going to
it's
say.
inaccurate.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it can be it can be a good starter, but you don't want to rely on it for sure. But I would
Right.
recommend for sure, like go to the resources tab on my website. Like that's some really good
Good,
info.
good
Some
stuff. And as she stated earlier, I did provide you all with the website, excuse me, the email for you to email her, which is clients@legacystreetlaw.com. Attorney Mariah is going to, basically upon the number of inquiries that she received, she is out of the Raleigh Durham area, but she will plan a visit here in the Fayetteville and surrounding areas. For
yeah,
those who are in the surrounding areas, she will schedule a time to come down to do consultations
yeah,
so that you can get your book of business in order. Because I'm going to tell you, it's five of us. It's five. It's five siblings. My mom and dad has. It's two girls and three boys. And I tell you one thing, I don't want no issues if the rapture
yeah.
don't come and take us first. But if they have to, leave, or any of us can leave, I just want to make sure things are in order because I do not want to see my family. And I'm tired of seeing other families just basically being divided because things are not in place. And then we are allowing the state to make our family decisions. It's very heartbreaking. Do
Yeah.
you have any other additional comments?
No, I think you said it all. Just that, like I said, just take the next best step. If you have any questions, please email me. Like I said, don't just sit on the information. If you don't have a complete plan in place, a lot of people might have a document here and there. You might have
Yeah,
power of attorney, but you ain't got your advanced directives. You ain't got your will, your trust. You don't have your inventory, your asset inventory done. You don't have a lot of this other stuff. Then you need to call somebody. You need to have a comprehensive plan in place, not just a document here or there. You need an actual strategic plan. You need to have some talk to a licensed attorney to get an idea of your family dynamics, your family situation, what you own, the type of assets you own, your wishes and your goals, to strategize. That's the
right,
key. Don't,
right.
rely on Google and these online websites or whatever. Cool. I mean, but you want to make sure that things are going to be done and done right the first time. You don't want to be,
Right.
this is something, it's kind of like going to the doctor. If you have to have a major surgery done, you don't want to go to like, you want to make sure you go to the best person that they
That's
know that
right.
they're gonna get in and get out. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So you need to
That's
make
right.
sure that you're diligent and have some discernment on how you're going about this.
I
Okay.
love it. I love it. I'm definitely going to have to bring you back for a part two because there's some additional things that you do. We didn't even get to the legacy part, but I know estate is part of legacy
It
planning, but
is.
we still didn't get, dive deep into the legacy piece and also the business and succession planning. So
Yeah.
you all make sure that you all reach out to Attorney Mariah. She's phenomenal. Brianna stated, happy to meet you tonight. I definitely agree. And she also stated, great podcast, Lenora
It did
Lasher.
again.
Thank you so much. And Mabel, thank you for checking in on to this afternoon as well. So you all, I'm definitely going to bring Attorney Mariah Street back. She is a wealth of knowledge, and she spent time
Yeah.
to go to school, to pay to learn this, to bring it to all communities, but especially to her community,
Especially
because there is a great
the need.
need, great need. And just me, I've been to a number of funerals in my entire lifetime, and I tell you, it's very disheartening when you see individuals fussing. So let's pivot to planning and
Yeah.
estate planning. Let's pivot to that. We all can do it. We all can get in contact with Attorney Mariah Street. Make sure you all email her, because if she
Email.
gets a certain amount of inquiries, we're going to make sure that we arrange a time for her to come into the Fayetteville, as I stated, North Carolina area, surrounding areas, so that she can do consultations here, and you don't have to travel all the way to the RDU area. So
Yeah.
thank you again, Attorney Mariah. Hang on, everyone else. Make sure that you still go ahead and like and share this podcast, because someone definitely needs to hear this information. You all take care.